And welcome back to 90s Noise. This is Ashley, born 1988.
I'm April, born 1991. So Three Musketeers.
We are in 1993.
1990. Okay. So, really quick, just give those who are unfamiliar with this movie. So, just a little synopsis for the movie. This movie, we are doing Three Musketeers, 1993. It was a Disney production. So just reading the little synopsis off the back for those who haven't seen it. Not the star-studded comedy adventure that dazzled moviegoers everywhere. In this action-packed tale of three loyal swordsmen, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, Oliver Platt, who are joined by an eager recruit, Chris O'Donnell, to protect the King of France. Together, the foursome battle enormous odds in their attempt to defeat the evil royal advisor, Tim Curry, and seductive envoy, Rebecca de Mornay, plotting to overthrow France's crown, fighting against both time and scores of enemies. You'll cheer out loud when these exciting musketeers face danger, fun, and adventure at every turn, proving they are the greatest swashbucklers who ever lived. That is the winded synopsis on the back of the DVDs that were released after the fact, obviously, since DVDs were not a big commodity.
In 93?
In 93.
Yeah.
We're going to start with this, Ashley. This was your first time seeing this movie. So what did you think? Go ahead, rip off the Band-Aid so that way then I can just dive into my obsession with this movie.
Yeah. As far as I can say, and remember, I don't feel like I've ever seen this movie. I feel like the Three Musketeers characters are familiar, but I don't know if it's these guys or if it's some other version of it. So that's where I was kind of like, I don't know. But
just rip it off. Rip off the Band-Aid.
Not as bad as Three Ninjas, I will say that. It's not as bad as Three Ninjas. I do have a comment to say later on when we're talking. I'm not going to bring it up now. But it's something that I found really funny when I was watching it. Have you ever seen the original though? I'm curious.
Like the black and white?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I'm sure I probably watched that in a insomniatic stupor. Not being able to fall asleep because they would play it on TV in the middle of the night, the old versions, when they would do like those black and white stuff.
I didn't know that it was a Disney movie either, and I feel like the rating of the movie, I'm not sure what the rating is. Do you know what the rating is for it?
It was a PG.
Really? So
yes,
it was a little bit more intense than I thought it was going to be, because as I was watching it, I'm like, so if April was a baby in diapers watching this movie, this is very interesting. Like there were some intense scenes, there were some sexual type scenes. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was not expecting any of that.
Well, so you do gotta think about it. So Disney they kind of had two parts to them in the 90s, early 90s. They had their theme park animated kids things. And then they had their live action, more family, but pushing towards adult geared items. And this was definitely one of them. And it's actually funny you mentioned that. So I'll just kind of go into, so first off, my existence was completely questioned this week. Because after rewatching it for the umpteenth time, I was then doing some extra research on it, and I was thinking, oh, we're getting close to the release date for it. The actual 30th.
Oh.
No, we're not. So
we're 6 months away. That's okay. It's close.
It's not 6 months, is it? Oh yeah, gosh.
November 12th is what it says here.
Yeah, November. So I saw that November 1993. I'm like, that's not right. I was so confused because I remember us going and seeing this in theaters for my oldest brother's birthday, which his birthday is at the end of July.
Okay.
And so my mom and I were talking about it, and I was like, how is this possible? She's like, that may just be for when it was released on VHS. I'm like, I'm looking everywhere and I can't, no. So I texted my brother. I was like, we saw this for your birthday, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, how's that possible? He's like, we didn't see it the year it came out. We saw it the following year at the cheap theater.
Oh.
So you remember when they would do that, they would they would have the big releases, and then a lot of times they'd be recycled because we didn't have streaming services or the availability that we do now. They would get recycled in theaters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they did that.
We ended up, so we saw it in 1994.
Okay.
But how they set up the VHS releases, they did batches. And so the first batch of VHS release was in like spring of 94 and then Christmas time of 94, which we'll get to that story in a little bit in regards to that. So I was 3 when I saw it in theaters, when my parents took all of us. I mean, it was both of my brothers and me.
Now, do you think your parents knew?
No idea.
How? Okay. Because I was going to say, like, I feel like the Three Musketeers that I'm not saying that I remember, but that I would kind of place this movie is very comedic and kid friendly and stuff like that. It's something more of like, okay, I can understand April like watching this, but then watching this and seeing some of those scenes and some of the fights and the gore and, you know, all that. And then again, like the sexual stuff, I'm like, wait, hold up. What?
So obviously the sexual stuff right over my head.
Of course.
But I was talking to my mom and she's like, you know, if we had known ahead of time, we probably wouldn't have taken you with us.
Of course not.
Because, so now that you've seen it, there's the scene towards the end where, so this is going to be huge spoilers for anybody who's not, we're not doing it in really any order here, but these are kind of just more my memories of it. So the scene in the dungeon, specifically towards the end when they're chasing after the bad guy and everything, the part where Porthos is off by himself, Oliver Platt's character, and he runs into that big guy who Tim Curry was like, we're being followed, take care of it. And he doesn't speak, he's just like, Rrr.
Yeah.
When that scene came on when Porthos was fighting him, my mom made me cover my eyes. Did your parents ever make you cover your eyes when watching anything?
I think we talked about this before on something. And I think I had said I don't remember, but I would hope in those cases they did or like said, I don't know. But again, it's like if you're young, what are you going to do with that anyways?
Okay, so when you're young, I don't know if anybody else would do this, but for me, when I was told to cover my eyes, this was my covering my eyes.
Exactly. You're still hearing stuff. You're still like peeking through.
Like just barely. And so that's what I did. I was like barely able to see, but I'm still seeing it. When he meets up with Kiefer Sutherland's character, he's like, where have you been? I was taking care of something ugly. That line stuck with me.
Really?
Yes. And it was, my mom and I were talking about this. And she's like, I don't know why that line stuck with you. I was like, I don't know, but this may also be part of the reason why like I'm like obsessed with like watching serial killer documentaries and stuff like that. Like those like crazy things. Like I might have been scarred as a child by watching Three Musketeers, and then that just kind of fascinated me or something.
Oh my God. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
I wouldn't either. So all around, I do have to ask, like, how did you think this held up to you watching it for the first time now? Like, because I personally feel like we talked with Three Ninjas, those don't hold up worth a shit.
Right.
Like they couldn't do any, like they would not work at all right now. I feel if there was a couple little tweaks in this movie. It could hold up pretty well right now. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think what it has going for it is that it's a period piece. So usually those type of movies always do hold up because okay, it's a movie that's set in a different time than we ever grew up in. So like we really can't necessarily relate to those
Yeah.
anyways. But there wasn't anything that stood out where I was like, oh, like that's not okay. That won't work today. I felt like as a whole, like the movie was fine in that respect. I don't see any issues with people wanting to still watch it and go watch it for the first time or whatever. Like I think it worked well still.
Yeah.
What was it about the movie that you feel they may have been a little iffy?
Probably some like a little bit of these sexual
Mm.
parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost kind of like, okay, wasn't necessary. You know, I think a movie would have been
Yeah.
great if it even better maybe that if it didn't have
Mm,
those. Like it wasn't necessarily a necessary part to
yeah.
include, I guess.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this, so this is loosely based off of the book.
Mm.
That book is also loosely based off of people in actual history. There was actually King Louis, I think it
Mm-hmm.
was the 14th, and then Cardinal Richelieu was an advisor. I think this might also be part of why I grew to enjoy history so much. Like,
Mm.
that was one of my favorite subjects in school and everything was history. And especially once I got into, I think it was high school, when we actually were learning about some European history. And this was this time, and King Louis and the Cardinal and everything were talked about in the books. It was like just a little snip type thing.
Did you ever get to do a project on the Three Musketeers?
No, oh my gosh, I would have loved to, honestly. It's funny because I watch this movie regularly now, and for a long time I hadn't seen it for probably 10 years or something.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to it, I still love it. It's a good movie, it's a good-hearted movie.
What is it that stands out the most to you that you feel like you keep going back to it?
That's a really good question. So I definitely like the lines, like some of the one-liners.
Mm-hmm.
I've always enjoyed kind of the swashbuckling types of movies, like like Pirates of the Caribbean, those
Oh
types
yeah.
where it's kind of a piratey or some like Robin Hood, those different types.
Mm.
And so this kind of had a mixture of that. It was kind of a mix of Robin Hood and pirates combined.
Yeah.
Love Tim Curry was, I think, fucking brilliant in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say his part was good. Like it's one of those things where as soon as he comes on screen, he like just embodies a character. He just like takes
Mhm.
over. You're like, okay, come on, Tim, give us your best. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
He fit the role really well, and I wish his part was a little bit bigger, I guess. But
Hmm. I do too. And I just, like I said, I loved his role in this. And it's funny because pretty much everybody in this, the main people, like Kiefer Sutherland, Oliver Platt, Charlie Sheen, Chris O'Donnell, Tim Curry, all of them went on to do a shit ton of other things. Rebecca De Mornay also. And seeing them in things later on, I still see them from this movie.
mm,
Like probably 15 years ago, I was rewatching, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I was rewatching Beethoven,
mm-hmm.
and Oliver Platt is in it.
I was trying to place where I had seen him in something. Who does he play in that?
Him and Stanley Tucci are the
Oh, he's
dog
the.
catchers.
Oh, okay.
He's the taller one.
Yeah. I was like, he's so familiar. Like I just
Mhm.
couldn't place like where he was from. Okay, that makes
And
sense.
that it was so funny because I was watching it, and again, it was probably in that lull that I hadn't seen Three Musketeers for a little while, and Beethoven was just on TV, and I look at my mom, and I go, why is my brain connecting to France. And she looks at me and she goes, Oliver Platt, that's Porthos from Three Musketeers. I go, damn, it is. I was like, look, that is. And it was very, I mean, close to it because this started filming in April of 1993. And so
Oh.
Beethoven was what, 92?
Mm-hmm.
They filmed 92, 91. I can't remember if Brian had specified that year, but
Mm-mm.
it was very shortly
Right.
after that he was then in this. And
He didn't have long hair like that though, did he?
no, he had short hair.
They grew it out pretty quick.
Yeah, and it might have been a wig too. His lines, especially in this, were, I mean, I got this sash. The sash was given to me by the Queen of America. There's no
Oh, that I remember that
like
one. Yeah.
those different ones. I love just how crazy some of them were. Like, this axe was a gift to me from the Tsarina of Tokyo, and you're just like you're hearing it and you're like, this is ridiculous, but so funny, and I loved it.
So for me, it was really weird seeing Charlie Sheen. Like, I'm not used to him in like a more serious type role that he was playing.
Yeah,
So I would say that was like the hardest thing for me to really get behind. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, when you picture someone in like a certain role, like that's all you
yeah.
can picture. So trying to make sense of the character who was playing and believe him, I was just like, Charlie, no, like, just no. You know what I mean?
It's so weird rewatching this after everything that's gone on with him,
Yeah.
because you kind of just see that in your mind, and it that killed me when, because the four main actors especially, I was just so like drawn to, and was always liked watching other things they were in. Like, hell, I went and watched I think it was Scary Movie 3, simply because Charlie Sheen was in it.
Oh yeah, he was in that. Oh man.
That's how I did a lot of things. Like, that's how I
Yeah.
saw a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And then once the whole like tiger's blood and winning and everything, it's just kind of like, I like to think of him more from this role
Right.
than anything else.
Yeah, you'll just go back to the older stuff he did before, like
Mhm.
that came to light and be like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I know those three, like the main musketeer guys,
Mhm.
but the other guy, Chris, you
Chris
said,
O'Donnell. Uh-huh.
he looks familiar, but I didn't look up to see like what else he's done. So tell me more
Okay.
about that.
Okay, so he was in the 19, oh gosh, I don't remember the years that these came out, but
Hmm.
he was in Batman and Robin. He
Okay.
played Robin
Hmm.
with George Clooney.
Okay.
He most recently had been in NCIS LA. I don't know if you ever
I don't
watched
watch
that.
that. No, I don't watch that.
Okay. He's done a lot. And so he,
Let me just pull him up while I got a thing to see. Oh, okay. So now, okay. So seeing like a more current picture, he looks
yeah.
familiar. Okay. As far as things so he did do a lot of like NCIS stuff. That makes sense.
Yeah, he's been doing NCIS for a while.
Like I've seen a few episodes of it, but not like, I don't watch it religiously. Like,
Yeah, I like Cats and Dogs, The Revenge of Kitty Galore.
what is that? That
Oh
sounds.
my gosh. It's one that's best watched either drunk or high.
Well, I'm working my way there. So,
Yeah, I mean, he like Fried Green Tomatoes, he was in that before this. I mean, I've liked a lot of the stuff he's done. I've watched the NCISs. That was pretty cool to see that progression.
right.
Because of course, Three Musketeers, Batman and Robin, and then more currently,
Hmm.
he is a great actor. I think that it's funny watching this and then thinking back in Pirates of the Caribbean, Orlando Bloom almost kind of like channels Chris O'Donnell as D'Artagnan.
Really?
I feel that like some of like the hat, like especially towards the end of Pirates, when he's kind of like accepted the fact that his father was a pirate and stuff, had a lot of very Three Musketeers D'Artagnan vibes from that.
I mean, maybe he was influenced by it, I mean, it could have, I mean, everyone's always influenced by something when they go into roles. And you said before, like pirates and this kind of go hand in hand almost. So that I don't see why not.
Yeah. It's funny. I like I said, I loved it. And while working at Blockbuster, I would always put this movie in to watch. I had 3 or 4 movies because we had to keep it had to be a certain rating.
Right.
So, and it had to be something that we actually had in store, whether it was like a personal copy we brought, but we had to have it available to be able to rent. So at the time, I didn't have an actual DVD copy anymore. So I was just using the in-store one. I kid you not, 98% of the time, within the first 15 minutes of playing this movie, like the first or second person who would come in the store once I started it would be like, "Oh, what's this?"
Oh,
I
geez.
tell them, "Is it available?" "Yes."
Well, gonna make me stop
"Give me a
watching it.
second." I would. There's like I said, like 3 or 4. There was this, actually, it was this movie, Surf Ninjas, a movie from the 2000s called Stranded. It was a Swiss Family Robinson type movie. Obviously, the final Harry Potter. Now, the final Harry Potter, I used my own copy. But all of the other 3, we only had 1 copy of. And without a doubt, I wouldn't even make it a third of the movie before somebody asked for it. They'd stand there and be like, "Oh, my kids would like this. Can I rent this?" Fine.
You should have been like,
Fine.
"Well, ma'am, there's actually like a sex scene in this, so they probably won't." Deter them. You should have.
I should have. I should have tried. Like I said, this movie, it is funny rewatching it. There's some movies I can quote pretty well. I didn't realize how well I could quote this movie from all the years.
Uh-oh.
I kid you not, I was watching it and I like had it on in the background while just kind of noise while I was doing something else, doing whatever. And it was the scene where D'Artagnan's about to be executed. And they save him and everything. Like the whole, "This axe was a gift to me from the Tsarina of Tokyo. D'Artagnan, don't lose your head." All of those little like one-liner punches. Porthos, we're being chased. Right, something red.
I mean, there were a lot of one-liners. I felt like that was the whole like gist of the movie. They wanted a lot of those punches and just having them all spit out like something. So, I mean, it was very much so geared towards kids, like with the dialogue and stuff like that. You could tell. But I mean, again, I think they also played it right, having it more also with the stuff for parents, so that they could enjoy it too.
Absolutely. Like I said, this was definitely one that like spurred my love of those timepieces. I guess so. Actually, I found out a few interesting bits while doing some checking on this. So I don't know if you noticed, but during like the fight scenes and everything, Charlie Sheen really didn't use his sword very much. And that's because he didn't go through the fencing training that the others did, because he was in the middle of shooting hot shots. And so they used him doing like stuff more
physical
yeah,
fighting,
like punches.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I did kind of wonder why he was doing that. I was like, I mean, we have swords, right? Like
yeah, exactly.
But it's also kind of, again, you kind of question and think, okay, as far as the casting goes, like I would love to talk to someone on the casting team. Why did they go the route of Charlie, who I don't really think his background was action? It was all comedy. You know what I mean? Like, did he do action stuff?
He this actually brought him and Kiefer Sutherland back together after Young Guns,
Oh
which
yeah, they did
was
that.
an action. I think he did a decent amount. Kind of a comedy, I feel like was more his later, like
Mm.
mid to late 90s, whereas earlier on, because I mean you gotta remember his family, just like Kiefer Sutherland, was very much a acting family. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
his
true.
father, his
Mm-hmm.
brother, and him were all very, very prominent in Hollywood.
I guess he just always came across as like someone who didn't take things very seriously. You know what I mean? Like he kind of was just like felt like I probably from his upbringing, just like, oh, things would be handed to him. And like I'm Charlie Sheen, like I don't really have to work too hard. And just like,
Mhm.
and maybe he really didn't have the time to go through the training. But if you know you're going into a movie that requires some sort of skills, you would think that you would want to put that character development into it a little bit. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? So
Oh
that's
yeah.
where it's like,
Well, I know because a lot of times different people will do okay if they are shooting something that get is shoots up until the start of shooting of something else, they'll use their downtime like in between
mm-hmm,
scenes and stuff like that to learn for their next role, or they'll do like a crash course once they get there. Like
mm,
that's what for Lord of the Rings, Viggo Mortensen did. He got cast like a month into shooting because the first person that they had
oh
cast, they
wow.
thought they turned it out thinking was too young.
Mm,
And so he did like a freaking crash course. And so there are those opportunities, but I feel like you said he kind of I don't know if this is true or anything because obviously we don't know the backstory.
mm,
Maybe just his schedule for Hot Shots was so rigorous that there wasn't any option to be able to do anything for that. I mean, I guess it also, in a sense, I feel it did kind of work to his character because his character was a little bit more in like religious based. And since he had been a student of the Cardinal, you
mm.
kind of feel like he's almost a little bit more passive with the punch, like being more focused on like hand to hand as opposed to swords.
Now, was that how it was in the original though, or did they just change his character to fit that vibe?
No, I think don't quote me on this because I don't even know if I've actually truly read the book.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's been probably 20-25 years since I actually maybe would have seen the black and white version. But I feel like for some reason, I don't think everything I read, they didn't change it to to fit that.
Mm.
That was, I think, already in play with his character having been a former student of Cardinal Richelieu.
But then, like the first scene that you're introduced to him, he's on the bed with some girl. So,
I mean,
okay.
we have I guess in a sense, at least it was somebody that looked to be of age.
We can only hope.
We can only hope.
Oh God, that's great.
There's just a few little interesting things like per IMDb, and of course, like anybody can put anything on IMDb. It stated that Disney had wanted Robert Downey Jr. for a part.
That could have been interesting.
I would have been that there were some other people that were up for roles. Supposedly Brad Pitt turned down the role of D'Artagnan.
Yeah, no.
William Baldwin, Johnny Depp, Gary Oldman, and Jean-Claude Van Damme, Carrie Elwes, and Al Pacino were all sought out by Disney for different parts. I think I also saw somewhere that it said that, so Carrie Ellis was considered for one of the roles well into casting and actually appeared in a pre-production interview from New York's Planet Hollywood with Charlie Sheen and Kiefer Sutherland.
Mm.
I really want to see if we can't find that interview, because that would be very interesting.
Yeah. Dig up kind of more of why did he pass, or did they go,
Yeah. And maybe with talking about him, I mean, he had done Princess Bride. This was also about the time of Robin Hood Men in
hmm.
Tights. And so maybe he was like, I want to get out of these period pieces.
Yeah, it could have been that too. I mean, I could have seen him fitting in really well, but yeah, it could have been
Yeah.
that he needed to take his career somewhere else, and it was like,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. I do love the cast that they put together. And I do think it worked very well for that time.
hmm.
Now, if they would gather everybody back again and try it again, I don't think it would.
Have there
Besides the fact,
been any reboots or any talks of reboots for this? Like, I'm kind of
oh my
surprised I
goodness.
haven't seen anything like Three Musketeer.
So Disney did a Three Musketeers in like the mid 2000 teens, I believe it was. They did
Oh.
another one. This had the kid from Percy Jackson.
hmm.
It had Orlando Bloom in it,
Hmm.
who played the dude. When he was announced, I was like, mm. It was one of those things where I was like, I kind of don't want to see it because I love this one so much.
Right.
But yet, if Orlando Bloom's going to be in it, I kind of do. Oh gosh, I can never pronounce her name.
Oh, Mila.
Jovovich.
Yeah, I'm gonna butcher it.
Forgive me for the butchering, but she was in it also.
Okay.
It was a little too, for me personally, it was a little too like effects. Orlando Bloom's, he played the Duke of Buckingham, which they only talk about in this one.
mm.
So he actually made an appearance as the Duke of Buckingham. He comes in like a freaking hot air balloon or some shit. Yeah,
What?
it was almost like it was too, I didn't feel like it truly was for the time period that
Like
this was
only the
supposed to
best
set
for
it.
Orlando. Like
Yeah, that's
his
kind of how
request,
it
I have to
felt.
come in a hot air balloon, or I'm not doing the role.
As
They're like, Orlando,
honestly,
that doesn't fit the time period, but
well, I mean, some of like it was one of those. It almost kind of had like some matrixy feel to it with some of the effects, and I'm just like
mm,
this is taking away from the story. I felt
yeah.
I didn't care for it. They've
Yeah.
done so many versions of Three Musketeers in a sense, in
Yeah,
one shape or
and I
form.
think that's what ends up becoming the issue with a lot of those movies that they redo, especially the period pieces, and they try to put all the effects in it, and it's like it works better when it's simplified, because
Mhm.
obviously back then there were no special effects happening, so like
Exactly.
why are we including them into a movie like that? Yeah, so I feel like I'm not going to watch that newer one,
No,
but I
I
just,
don't recommend it.
yeah, and I just feel like if they do another one, it's probably going to end up being the same way. Like they're going to ruin the what this one kind of held, and even the original probably.
Yeah. And the thing with that too is like this was like truly shot on locations. Like they
Hmm.
filmed a lot of it in Austria.
Yeah, but I don't know where it is behind me, but that looks nice.
I know, right? Like that it was more authentic
Right.
for the most part. I mean, if you slow down certain scenes, like I guess there's one scene where you could see like a modern day silo in the back or something, like they, whether editing forgot to cut it
Right.
out or whatever. But I mean, again, at this point, this is early 90s.
I mean, just taking the time to shoot on location instead of a stage, like you have to give them props and credit for that, because it's like,
Absolutely.
okay, whatever. We know they're not shooting really in that time period. So I'll
Yeah.
forgive the little, just like when we saw like the palm trees and My Girl, like they were trying to shoot on location,
Yeah.
but it just wasn't fitting.
uh, just wasn't. But yeah, so I do like, there's also I think a couple years after this came out was when Man in the Iron Mask came out, which was kind of a Three Musketeers but older version. It had Jeremy Irons in it. It had Leonardo DiCaprio in it. It was an interesting take, but it just, for me personally, didn't resonate. I will always hold this one to the top.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, this is truly seared in my memory. Like, this is one of my very first memories that I still to this day can remember. It was a very prominent, we'll get to the story in a minute here, but from both like in loving the movie and then having a devastating, debilitating, I don't even know exactly how to say it, but like, I love this movie, but I also was devastated by it. We'll go ahead and get into that story.
I was like, wait, okay, girl, you gotta explain that.
As I said, we saw this 1994 for my brother's birthday, okay? At that time, again, VHSs were, their distribution process was
like a year behind the release.
but not only that, it was, they only made so many every like so many months. From the moment I saw this in theaters, I became obsessed. And I became obsessed with it for the movie and then also the end credits song, All for Love, by Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, and Sting.
I think I turned it off by that point, but
I
know the song, so
yeah. Absolutely one of my top songs, like all times, and it really made me like deep dive into those artists and love their music. Brother's birthday was in July. This is all I wanted for Christmas that year. Only thing on my Christmas list.
Did your brothers want it though?
No, but my brothers, I think my brothers enjoyed it, but it was like, yeah, that was the one fucking thing I wanted. And I was a determined little 3-year-old. So, of course, Santa got it for me. It was Santa, okay? I didn't even want to touch any of my other presents.
Jeez.
Like, that's exactly. I wish
you better have a picture. Oh, girl, that would have been so cute.
I wouldn't be surprised if we had like a VHS tape somewhere, like in way back storage, because we used to videotape
so did we.
Christmas and everything. So only thing I wanted, I got it. I was so excited. My parents like had to be, we gotta go through the rest of the gifts. I think we had to
go like, no, let's put the movie in now.
Exactly. I think we had to go to my grandma's and everything, because we would always do. By the time I got to watch it, put the tape in, press play, the tape was blank.
What? How the fuck is it even possible?
It was blank.
A bootleg copy?
No, it was like, it had the stamp and everything on the VHS.
Can you imagine the hell today if people got a blank tape? Like, they would be raising hell on social media.
Could you imagine 3-year-old me? Only thing I wanted for Christmas, and it was blank.
Your parents and Santa gypped you. We got you the tape. Shh.
Blank. This is what I'm saying. Absolutely devastated.
But what did your parents do? Did they return it? They probably didn't keep the receipt.
Oh, my mom always kept all the receipts, because in case, not necessarily something like this, because God forbid, who would have thought, but like in case it like something got broke or wasn't working and those kinds of things, she kept all receipts. I was like inconsolable. I think they probably tried like ice cream or desserts or something to get, but I was inconsolable. Of course, you can't, everything's closed on Christmas. Like this was before Walmart was still open, before anything stayed open. They were always closed like 4 p.m. Christmas Eve and didn't open until the day after. I think I woke my parents up the day after Christmas and was like, we need to go get this exchange. I need my...
You know how terrible those stores are the day after Christmas too? Like, So
you can think of that. So I think we probably got it at Kmart or something. My mom probably got it at
Mm-hmm.
Kmart or something of that sort. So we go and we take the tape, we take it all, take everything, and we're like, this, my parents, this tape's blank. Well, what do you mean? Like, and it was one of those, you know how
No
some
one's
of
gonna
them are,
believe you.
yeah. Well, not only that, but a lot of times those were if the seal's broken and everything. And my mom's like, this is blank.
Someone opened the top part, fucked up the film inside.
I don't know. It was just it was like somebody they had just stamped it and not even run it through
Right,
to
and I'm
put.
sure that happens. Like, I'm curious. I'd love to do some research to see like how many in every tape or even DVDs, how many end up being blank. And it's, probably not
Yeah.
intentional, but
Of course they weren't believing it, and then I think they like actually put it because they had the VHS player there, so they put it in and saw that it truly was blank. They didn't have any copies.
Oh, of course not. Not after Christmas.
And so my mom's like, when are you guys getting your next shipment? We don't know. So I think they were like, we can have you exchange it for something else, or we can just give you a refund. But I mean, you only had like what, 30 days to return something. We don't know if we'll get a new copy by then. So of course my parents just took the refund for
Right.
it because who knew? It wasn't until my birthday in April. My birthday.
Oh.
Till the new shipment of Three Musketeers came out. And we, like, every single time we would go into a store that had movies, whether it was like Kmart, Walmart, I think we even went to like Best Buy, or there was this place called Hastings in Lawrence that had movies. I think I'd made my parents go to every place that carried movies at that time.
Oh my
Nowhere,
God.
nowhere had
Demanding.
it. Nowhere had it. And finally, we were able to get it for my birthday 4 months later. 4 months later.
Now, did they wrap it up and present it as a new gift to you?
So,
Oh no, that's terrible. Here, we got you something. I already opened this.
I wore that VHS out so badly. Like, I am still like distraught to this day, like even thinking about that. Me being little 3-year-old, so excited for Christmas. You know how you're excited when you're young.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing I wanted being blank. I almost think it would have been better if like it just had something completely different on it.
Oh, that could have been interesting.
It could have been interesting, but like at least something like, but it was the snow. Like, like it literally,
Yeah.
we put in and like, we were like, oh, well, maybe it's been like, it wasn't rewound. So
Right.
no, it was rewound and it had the stamp, all this kind of stuff.
Man, can you imagine today though? Like that company would be getting called. They would be getting like shit ripped out of them. Disappointing kids on Christmas. Come on.
Oh my gosh. I was so devastated. It was actually kind of funny because I think it was about Christmas time or just after Christmas in 2018 when MegaCon was announcing for their 2019 event, people. And they announced Kiefer Sutherland and my heart dropped. I literally like almost started hyperventilating.
Oh gosh.
I was like, I can meet Kiefer Sutherland. Like, I've loved him since 1994.
Very long time.
Like that was my main plan for 2019 MegaCon. I didn't care if I didn't meet anybody else there. There's a lot of people there that year. And I was like, I have to meet Kiefer Sutherland. Have to. 4.5 hours in his line.
No, I mean, I get the connection that you have, and like it was a long time, but if I had that same opportunity to meet one of my like most favorite people ever, 4.5 hours is nothing. You know what I mean? Like you would fucking wait all day.
Oh, I would have. Like, you know what sucks? I was the next person in line. The next person.
Oh yes. I remember.
He had to go do his panel.
Yeah.
And get some food. And I was like, I wanted to go to his panel. And they're like, oh, we'll give you little tickets and you can come back and you'll be able to meet him, but we can't guarantee where in line you'll be.
No.
I haven't been to any other line since I got here. I ain't moving. I was by myself. Like it wasn't something where I could like
hold my
leave somebody.
space. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I went up and I told him about the whole Christmas fiasco. And he just looked at me. He's like, "Are you serious? I'm so sorry that happened." It's like, "It's okay. I ended up getting it. I love this movie. Like, it was just such a big movie for me and everything." He signed it, and yeah, so it's April, All for Love, Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh.
Absolutely loved it. I mean, that was one of the reasons why it was taking so long, was because he was taking time with everybody. Kind of like Skeet was.
That's nice. Yeah.
Which was, and it's like, this is nice to have, because I've not seen him do a convention. Like, that was the first time I'd seen him do a convention, other than probably like San Diego or something, like one of the California ones. So Turtles is big because of like the whole how my brothers chose my name and everything. And so I have a connection to that regardless, and it being number one on the day that I was born, all of that. But this one was really more mine, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And to this day, obviously, like, everybody's top movies change throughout their life, different placements and everything. To this day, this movie is still always going to be considered my number one favorite movie of all times. And it is one that, like, if I am having a bad day or something, I could throw it on. I do love that Disney Plus did put it up.
It makes it nice,
because now I don't have to go grab my DVD,
right? Yeah,
and everything.
I love that, because I've been trying to think for a while now if there's any movie or anything that does that for me and have that same connection, but I really don't think there is. I mean, and maybe it's just because my memory sucks, and like maybe there was something that I loved as a kid, but yeah, I don't really know of any. I mean, A Little Princess obviously is like the only thing that I know that like I watched that so many times. I memorized the whole movie, like, Three Musketeers. So maybe that one, but it's not the same type of, connection I feel like that you have with this movie, which I think is just that's it's crazy to think about that a kid at 3 could have that connection, but that is honestly like really, really cool. So like I think that's awesome you have that.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, I don't know if it was just a easy way of like dealing with 3 kids and everything, to like put movies on, especially when younger, when you can't really like just let them loose in your yard, especially in the 90s, like while we did that and everything, while we were constantly like go play in the yard, come back inside when it gets dark type of thing. It also is a little like scary when you think about it, like we're watching some of these documentaries on different things that happened, especially in the 90s, because there wasn't a camera on every corner or in every single pocket.
Yeah, you really only got the news and stuff from the news, or that's like word of mouth. You didn't get to just flip through your phone and figure out what the fuck's going on every square inch of the world, so
Exactly.
it's crazy to think that in the 90s we were so oblivious to so much shit happening, because we were just like, well, I mean, I don't know, it's fine here.
Exactly. And then that's kind of also how like it was with movies. Like, you really didn't know a lot. You would see a preview for something, and you didn't really have the ability to go do a deep dive. Okay, who all's in this? What's it about? What are critics saying? What are reviews saying?
That's something that I feel like Mary-Kate and Ashley did really well, because on all of their like movies and stuff, they always promoted everything else that they were doing. So like it made you want to go and get everything else,
Exactly.
So you're right. Like there was no way for us to really know unless you're browsing the shelf or happen to see a preview, which I don't even know when I would have seen previews except for right before, the VHS tape goes into it.
Yeah.
Like they didn't play them randomly on TV or anything, I don't feel.
I don't think they really did. They might, like, I think they might have
Like the
when they were
big
playing
ones, there was
movies.
there would be like little TV spots for them.
Yeah, or like with Wonderful World of Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Those I feel like they would showcase some of their up and coming movies for that, like
Right.
while it was playing, because everybody watched Wonderful World
Oh
of
God,
Disney.
yeah.
Like that was, you were in front of your TV. If you went to school the next day and you didn't know what movie had been played for Wonderful World of Disney, you ain't sitting at this table.
Oh,
And
cutthroat
so,
school you went to.
a small town school, that's
Wow,
the
yeah.
issue. And honestly, I think that's also part of why I dove into movies so much, is because number one, I didn't have a lot of kids that were my age close to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously like going to school, like people from school, but most of those people lived
So
a
far.
little ways away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like you could just walk down to their street.
Right.
I either held on to my brothers and their friends, or if they pushed me too much, I then would hold on to movies.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of a double-edged sword for me, because I love the movies and I love watching them, but what I like to watch wasn't the typical female
Right.
movies.
So then even if you went to talk to kids, you couldn't relate to them on what current movie you watching, April. You'd be like, oh, Three Musketeers. They'd be like, what the fuck is that? You know? So
Exactly.
yeah.
You didn't watch the new Barbie princess movie? No. Did I play with Barbies? Yes. Like, I mean, I still was a little girl, but was I also like using like my brother's wrestling toys,
Right.
like mixing it in with Barbies? Of course. But yeah, and so exactly, it was one of those things where I really didn't have a good connection with a lot of people my age that were females. And because of that, like I was very, very tomboy in that sense. I mean, heck, even went into like true like first, second grade type of thing. I was still like Pokemon and watching more cartoons, like not the girly cartoons, but like Ren and Stimpy,
Right. Oh yeah.
Rocco's Modern World, like those types that were again more boy as opposed to the Disney princesses. And even that, like I wasn't a big Disney princess person. I liked Disney's animated animal ones.
Right.
But it also went like I liked Fox and the Hound. I like the classics, Fox and the Hound, Aristocats. Of course, Lion King, absolutely love that one. I just never resonated with the girly princess stuff as much as I resonated with something like Three Musketeers. And I don't know, like I think that's probably also like where some of my comedic timing comes from. I mean, like fuck, like growing up watching Oliver Platt's Porthos. Porthos the pirate. Ah, pirate. Told you I was famous. Like my brain still quotes this movie, like even when I don't watch it for a long time.
It's so interesting how the upbringing that we have, it really does mold us, because it's interesting to think also, okay, how would you have turned out if you didn't have some of the influences that you did? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is very interesting, because I'm kind of like a mixture of where you came from, but then also like the girly side. Like I was kind of in the middle, I feel like. And once I got into the point in my life where it was all about horses, that changed me. And I always think like, okay, if I didn't get involved in horses, where would I be? You know what I mean? Like what would I have developed into? What would I have become really passionate about? And where would I have, taken things? Like it is very interesting how one thing can really change your whole existence.
Absolutely. Like I think too, besides this movie and like the genre, like I was saying, the theme song, All for Love, it really is just such a gorgeous song. Like I still to this day get chills listening to it.
I love songs that do that. I love songs that do that.
And so for that, like I want to hear more of those musicians as opposed to liking some of, no, granted, like, of course, Hanson, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC
Right.
98, all of those. Of course, I was boy band, but I would focus on music, and literally, this song was huge, huge. When I was talking to my mom about this, she was saying we would go to Pizza Hut or Mr. Godfather's. It was a pizza place. It was where you truly sat down and they
Oh
came and
God.
brought.
What's that?
Oh, I know, right? Pizza is now just so like it's more fast food, where in the 90s it was an outing. Like,
Oh my God, yes. The buffets and like the book clubs that they had and all that.
yeah.
Book it.
And they'd have the games. Like they'd
Oh
have like the
yeah.
little the one we would go to, it had a jukebox, and then it had games. Like I think it was more of like the table games.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you were sitting in like
Yeah.
the computer table.
Yeah.
So we would always my parents would always like give each of us kids like $2 in quarters. And we could do whatever with it while we were waiting for our food, because we'd place the order, and then of course it would
Yep.
take some time. The boys would always go do games. I would go this place, this jukebox had All for Love.
Of course it did. It's April's joint. She's playing her song.
I would go and I would literally just only do All for Love.
Aw.
And my mom would have to come and like, April,
We've heard it 10 times. Let's go.
She's like, we're done. Let somebody else pick something. I'm like, no. Like I was a little brat with that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, I only wanted, and I think like she tried to do, okay, well, let's play, oh, it's got this Bryan Adams song. This is one of the singers from All for Love. Let's play this one.
Oh yeah,
and
trying to play you.
I would go ahead and do, but then I'd go right back for All for Love. Or I'd be like, I give somebody else a chance.
No one else
They
took
had
it.
they had 30 seconds to go up and put a point.
That's on them. Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like this movie, I've got so many like different aspects that tie in for me personally, like
Yeah,
growing
because
up.
that is interesting that this movie kind of not only developed the genres of movies that you enjoyed after it, but also the music. Like that's really, I'm curious as to know if anyone else has had that same experience, like a movie or something influenced them that much that it sort of developed their future listens of like, because that's weird. I'm not saying you're weird, but I'm just, you know what I mean? Like that is very interesting that stuck with you that much that you were like,
yeah,
let me see what else they've done.
Well, not just that, it's one of those things, obviously, growing up, you don't necessarily understand that. But since we've been doing a deep dive into our past in the 90s, going back and thinking about this, and of course, like I told you, there's a few things that I'm like, well, we have to touch. And this one, of course, was an obvious answer, but even just within this last week, I was thinking about it. I'm like, this is, I think, truly probably the first like swashbuckling kind of more actiony periodic time movie that I saw. We go down my list of favorite movies after this. I mean, Lord of the Rings is on there, Princess Bride. I mean, even like Chronicles of Narnia being on there, it has those same aspects. Pirates of the Caribbean, a lot of them. I mean, really kind of when I think about it, one of the only ones that isn't is like the Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah.
It's one of those where I'm just going through the list. Granted, there are a few like Turtles and Surf Ninjas that don't have any aspect of that, but the majority of ones, and the ones that I still to this day find myself going back and rewatching multiple times a year or had watched enough times that if I go back and rewatch it now, I still would find myself quoting the movie, like anticipating everything, like doing deep dives into them. This really truly was that turning point.
I would have said no, 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 no to all of those movies because I don't feel like one, I haven't watched probably 90% of them, and two, it's it's a genre that I didn't grow up with, and I still just don't watch those. You know what I mean? Like when you're searching for movies to watch and stuff, and you're like, I mean, I've seen Pirates, but it's not a movie like you that you feel like you would want to go back and rewatch. I don't. I think about it, I'm like, but I'm like, nah, like, you know what I mean? Like once was enough.
Yeah, you're more, you like a lot, are you more comedy, drama, like what kind, where you kind of fall on that?
I'm definitely more comedy. Like,
Okay.
yeah, definitely way more comedy.
I don't know if maybe so for me it's I definitely like action. But I'm also one where it has to be a certain type of action.
That's what I was gonna say, because I like action. Like the Marvels movies are fun. I love it. I love anything with like Matt Damon, Liam Neeson, those kind of actiony. But it's a different type of action than like Three Ninjas or the Ninja Turtles or this. Like it's a different kind of action, I guess.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like I do enjoy those, but with the exception of a couple of the Marvel ones, if I look back at it, my majority of favorite actions are these period pieces, or that take place in whether it be another time or another land, I guess. If you think about like Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia, they have kind of a good round genre, like action, some drama with it, a little bit of comedy, but it's more like the sword action. I've always been super, again, probably because of this, I've always loved swordplay.
Okay, so something with that, at least in this movie alone, the sword fighting and wearing the 100 layers that they were wearing. Can you imagine that shit?
Gosh.
Like, no, like that just seems terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I give up props on that because it doesn't, like, you could almost kind of tell the texture of those tunics especially look like super thick wool. And yeah, it does not look like it was a very easy task.
No, like it is almost like wearing like a ninja suit, like they probably had to train with wearing like weighted stuff, because I feel like the sword fighting would have been more efficient if they weren't wearing as much. You know what I mean? Like, like why didn't they put those two together when they were fighting? Like, let me take this stuff off and
But when you think about it, though, with them wearing so much, it took more of a harder stab, more exerting of energy. But I do like kind of going up into the wardrobe on this. Tim Curry's outfit.
Oh, that was great.
There are certain parts from this movie that, yes. So when right after the bath scene, where he
just like creeped in like on her.
Yes.
I'm like, gosh. Yo, Tim, like that's not okay.
Whoa. But when he then goes to talk to the king after he's done doing his sword training, and he's like just his movement and the way he's got like the sword, and he's like, and I keep the moon underneath the folds of my robe and all of that.
Oh my god.
And then towards the end, where when they're getting ready for the birthday party or the birthday celebration, whatever, And right before the king and queen come walking in, like he gets in line to greet them or whatever, and he like swings the robe and everything. It's very dramatic as he takes his stance. And I just am like, oh my gosh, I wonder if that was actually in the script or if he threw that in there, because he just seems like somebody who would have done that without it being in the script.
That's what I'm saying. He completely probably opposite of Charlie Sheen. He seems like someone that studies his characters and really like thinks about all the little nuances and like, okay, how can I really put a different spin on this? Yeah, that's how I feel. And I did write down one of his lines that he said that I kind of thought was funny, besides my note of Tim is creepy. His line of "Kings come and go, but there will always be me." I'm just like,
Yes.
whoa, Tim.
Yes. I love it.
I love that line though.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And then at the after the dungeon where he's got the king and queen with him, and Kiefer Sutherland's like character is like, well, that'll be difficult considering the tree never left France. And he's like, a minor mistake, I will come back. And then Charlie Sheen like throws off the rope, and he's like punching the guys off. And when he goes to, you'll never harm another man ever again, so help me God, and gets ready to punch him, and King Louis like, wait. Tim Curry kind of like put like kind of like, oh my gosh. And then when King Louis, wait, he's just like that creepy smile to
he
him.
has a perfect creepy smile.
Oh my gosh, I love it. There's so many parts of this movie.
So do you have a favorite character? I mean, I have a least favorite, but do you have like, who's your favorite?
Oh gosh, I think I had a crush on Chris O'Donnell as D'Artagnan when I was younger. But as an adult, I think
you're the only one that doesn't have facial hair.
Yeah, well, because he's supposed to be younger. He's supposed to be he's supposed to be like just 20 or something like that.
Is he actually younger than everyone?
I think so.
52 currently, so
yeah, I think everybody
just a little bit, just a couple years younger.
Yeah, but I think that's why because did you got the part where his father had been a musketeer, and his father had died protecting King Louis's father. And that had been a good chunk of time. So it kind of does a full circle. Tim Curry's right hand, Rochefort, the guy with the eye patch, he had been trying to become a musketeer and ended up being the one to assassinate the king using D'Artagnan's father's sword. And then he killed D'Artagnan's father first.
Right.
And then used his sword to kill the king. And so time-wise, because the three, Athos, Aramis, and Porthos, had voted to like ban Rochefort from becoming a three musketeer. So they were, or not three musketeer, a musketeer. So they were high in the musketeer rankings. And so to be able to distinguish, even though they were only a couple years truly age difference, is why they did the three of them with facial hair and Chris O'Donnell without. Was to make that distinguishment. I
mean, in that one like close to the beginning shot when they were when all the musketeers were out there, you couldn't really tell who was who.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, they all look the same.
Oh yeah, no, it really did. So going back, as an adult, I probably really like Porthos.
Okay.
Him and Athos. Didn't really care for Aramis.
Who's your least favorite of the four?
Of the four, probably Charlie Sheen's character.
Okay. Yeah. But I was gonna say to him. He
I
like
like
was
it.
super annoying. Like, you know, his
Oh
character
yeah.
was like just coming in like way too hard in all of these
Oh yeah.
scenes. You're like, yo, like take a
Super
chill pill.
cocky. Yeah. Super, super cocky. And like, okay, so, and this drove me crazy rewatching it still. After he'd heard the plan
Mhm,
and they were heading to Calais and he woke up in Calais,
mhm.
he tells Sabine, Lady De Winter, everything. Dude, yank in her pants
That's what he was hoping for.
by telling her like what.
Oh man.
I
Ooh.
I did like her character though. Lady De
Yeah.
Winter. I liked her character. I also liked Constance.
I liked Constance. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
I liked that honestly the yes, there wasn't a lot of female characters, but it wasn't necessarily the typical oh,
Right. Yeah.
damsel in distress. Like
Hmm.
even the queen. Now she didn't have a huge part, but she wasn't quiet.
Hmm.
She was like, dude, what the hell are you doing when he showed up? And she was like telling King Louis, like, I don't trust him. Like
Hmm.
he's not a good person. So I did like how even in 1993, how they portrayed the females that they had in
Hmm.
this movie wasn't the typical just there as a witch
I mean,
type
of
of
course,
deal.
you would have someone nowadays who would be like, "Oh, they're not present enough," and "Oh, you didn't give them a big enough role," and "Oh, where's the diversity?" and "Oh, you'd have you know there are people out there," but it wasn't really a movie that needed that woman aspect to it. You know what I mean? Like there really wasn't
Really.
like any point to it. So adding more of that would have just I felt like dampened the whole movie. Like,
And that's what they did with that newer one with Mila.
oh,
It was, don't get me wrong, I love a strong female character and everything. And I even love like a villainous female character like
mm-hmm,
Lady De Winter. But there's for anybody, whether male, female, whatever, there's like a certain point where it's like that's you're just doing that to please people.
right,
Like
yeah,
this doesn't go with the story
mm-mm,
at all.
no.
Yes, while this movie was not did not really have much diversity, but then again, we are talking about period piece where I don't feel like there was necessarily the diversity at that
No.
time.
Mm-mm.
Obviously, I didn't live in France in this time period, so I don't fucking know for sure.
No.
But I do think as an adult and everything, I have a lot of issues with Disney and just how they do things, their way of doing things, I
Mm.
guess. But they will always have a piece of me because of this movie, especially.
That's not good.
I know it's not.
Disney gotcha.
Disney got me on this one. Like it is, it's also one of those things where you really don't feel this is a Disney movie.
Wasn't Three Ninjas a Disney movie?
Technically, I think distribution wise, yes. But
So
production,
something that something that I picked up on when I was watching this movie, and I was like, now I see why April loves this movie so much and why she loves Three Ninjas so much. The amount of hayas that I heard throughout this movie, I could not.
oh my gosh.
It was
I
too fucking funny.
that's always been something I've wondered about, like with watching martial art movies, with watching like yeah, like you said, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like every time it's like, why?
And there were sound effects too. Like I could hear that they had included sound effects, like
Mhm.
how I'm sure the original Three Ninjas was, but not the version we watched, but the original,
Yeah,
like the pshoo, pshoo, or whatever they use for it. Like I
yeah,
heard them on this movie.
absolutely. It's one of those things where, again, I don't quite know. Again, probably because I've not done. I mean, I did some martial arts when I was a kid, and yeah, I think they were like yeah, yeah, like,
Right. Yeah. As a
and
kid,
stuff.
that's
But
fun.
it's I've never quite understood, I guess. And maybe it's more like a goal, like getting ready or like releasing
Hmm.
something probably a lot more in depth than I will ever understand. But definitely don't get it with swords.
Yeah, because you're kind of wondering now, like, was that scripted or did they
Yeah.
just put it in? Because I mean, it's even like when you watch tennis and how every time they hit, they make this noise. It's like,
Yeah.
does that become a habit? Like, because there's no way you need to do that every time. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's one of those things with this, like, did it just happen naturally or did they script and like
Yeah.
every time you got to say hiya so people know you're like hiya, hiya,
Yeah.
like I don't
Or
know.
yeah, or was it like I know kind of like some of the actors who were in Star Wars got in trouble when filming because they're doing
Oh, really?
like yeah, like I think who was it? I think it was
Oh, fuck.
Ewan McGregor, I think, had gotten yelled at
That's
when in
funny.
during the first one, during Phantom Menace, because when he was had doing the lightsabers, he was like making the lightsaber sound, and they're like, cut, 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 cut.
I'm
No,
like,
no, we
that don't
will
work.
put that in
We don't need you to
post
make the
production.
noise. We have
And so,
technology for that, guy. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's like just growing up because it's weird. Like Princess Bride, they don't, if I remember correctly, they're not doing the sounds. Like
mm.
you just hear like the swords. Like they're not the yeah, 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 or anything like that.
And you
So
also have
that
to
would
wonder if
be
it's like the editing room too. Like, are they
mhm,
overlaying it? And like maybe in the Princess Bride, they got rid of that because maybe they were
maybe.
saying it, or you know what I mean, or they overlaid all of these and Three Musketeers or whatever with the high Oz, but they weren't actually saying it the whole time. I didn't really watch the
Yeah.
lips, so I
I yeah.
don't
I
know.
mean, like that's one of the things. It's if you like really truly watch in depth some of these older movies, you will see so many inconsistencies that pass through. Like a couple of parts at the big in fight scene with D'Artagnan and the sniper on the roof
Mm.
when he falls after Porthos like throws the or shoots him or whatever, shoots him with the arrow. Yeah. You can see like his harness for a quick second.
Oh.
And then like as it kind of pans, you can kind of see the mat.
Oh, I love that. Whoopsies.
Yeah, I mean it's little fun things, but and then like some of the where they've stabbed I think it's actually when Kiefer Sutherland gets like stabbed in the arm.
Mm.
When he's stabbed and it's pulled out, it's in one spot, but then the next scene it like
Oh,
goes
it's
down or
mm.
up or something a
Yeah.
little bit. And just the little things, but it's like, I mean, they didn't have access to the technology to replay as quickly as they do now.
Right.
I mean, a lot of times they'll check to make sure that it came out clear or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all just depends on who they hired to be the one
Yeah,
that is the consistency person. I forgot what they call them, but
yeah,
I don't know. It happens in every
yeah.
movie, regardless. Like, you know what I mean?
It
It's
does. It does. Like I said, I told you I'd have a good amount on this one. Like this, I love how you're like, I hope you have a lot to talk. I was like, girl, you have no idea. I've actually condensed it.
I will say the one part that I didn't like with the movie because now
Mhm.
this is coming into watching the movie. We just kind of I put some random things on before like I got to Three Musketeers and they weren't good choices. So I forgot which ones it was. There was two other movies. Like it was all on Disney because I was getting prepped for Three Musketeers. I was waiting for my boyfriend to finish cooking. And I put on, I think it was White Fang
Oh gosh.
and shit, what was the other movie that I put on? But Benji. But like partway through both of these movies, I stopped them because an animal dies in them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is not okay. Like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yes. I know
So
which part
then,
you're talking
so
about.
then we're getting through Three Musketeers, and I'm almost like we both said we're like, if another animal dies, we're done. Because like we saw the horses, like my dog was getting excited too because the horses are running, and she loves when horses are on screen, and she gets all involved. And then a horse dies, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? April.
I I have to admit I blocked that part out because I in my mind I go, but he's okay
He
because
just fell. Yeah.
at the end he's got the white horse again.
Oh, okay. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so I'm just like, okay, so he just got injured. He fell
Oh.
over, like he just got injured. He had to take a little break. They've been writing for hours or whatever because I mean, they said, D'Artagnan said his rear end could use a break and everything. So that's like how my brain does it because, like I said, at the end, they have all four of the horses are white
Mm.
and everything. And so I'm like, okay.
So you think, yeah. Not that there
He's
aren't
okay.
more white horses in the world. It's just those four.
Okay, us three. Okay. I had to give myself a reason. Like I had to do it. But yeah, no, like yeah, that was one things I think we could have definitely have like they could have just done without.
Yeah, cut that little scene off. Like they could have done the
Yeah.
shoot, but then not, we wouldn't have or whatever and not
Yeah.
have realized.
I mean,
But
it was nice that they didn't like actually like show like him like putting
right.
him down or anything
Right.
kind of because yeah, I probably at that point myself when I was a kid, I probably would be like, I don't want this anymore, just because that's how I am. Because I'm the same way. Like you can kill the main characters, you can
Mhm.
kill everybody, but if you touch an animal,
Like,
I
no.
will. I John Wick their ass. Like
Exactly.
I was like, I love how that's like become the norm is you John Wick them.
That has become I love that. Oh.
I do find again myself quoting it so many times or just random bits like okay, that scene at the end where Porthos saves D'Artagnan while on the roof and he's like, it's about time. Come, D'Artagnan, we're saving the king. I just those it's one of those things like even just when I think about it and quote it in my mind, it just is I can't help but smile on different things. So
Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers.
It confused me throughout the whole movie because I thought there were four of them, but there were
Well,
only
so
three.
there was only three
I know, but
because
it's like it's a kind of confusing, but I get who the Three Musketeers
yeah,
are. But then at the end, all the
but then
Musketeers come
this
back. All the Musketeers came
yeah.
back. So like, are they not Three Musketeers anymore?
Well, so it's they're the three main Musketeers, and they were the three that didn't turn in.
Here's what I was thinking when the movie was going. So like, okay, Three Musketeers, and then like there was the fourth guy coming in, and so what we thought was that one of them was going to die, so that there would only still be Three Musketeers. So that's kind of where my mind went with that, but that's not
Yeah.
how. No one died. I was no literally, and the whole movie I'm anticipating. Okay, someone's going to die, so no one died.
Well, that is actually kind of one of the things that I did like I think about it probably as a kid and why my parents were somewhat okay with it was technically Rochefort does,
True.
but it's not like it's a drawn out death or anything. He's a bad guy, so it's
Right.
okay
He's
because it's
supposed
a
to.
bad guy.
Yeah.
And then I mean Sabine, but she like jumps to her death.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
it's
that was
implied that she
that
dies.
was okay. I forgot about that scene. I'm like, okay, like wait a second. Now we have a suicide scene. What the fuck, April?
Well,
This is
see,
crazy.
I don't look at it like that. Like you don't, as a kid, you don't think about it. Like you kind of think about how he stopped it. He was like, you can choose how to leave this world and everything, but please just help us type of thing. But obviously as an adult, I realize, yes, she is committing suicide because she would rather kill herself than, but that's kind of also how went along with her character. She liked control,
Mm.
and she liked to be able to make decisions for herself.
Mm.
And that's why, like, I don't think it worked with her husband that she had killed, because
Right.
probably whatever, we don't know the backstory on that, but she utilized her assets and liked to be in control.
Mm.
And to be executed like that is losing that control, but he gave it back to her, and that's why she went ahead and told him what the plans were. And then he gave her the chance to go out how she wanted to.
Mm.
But I mean, let's be honest, the people that cliff dive every day from super high heights, maybe she did live.
Okay. That whole boom at the end. She lived. She's good.
She fell in the water, okay?
Oh my god. Oh, that's great.
I do think it's a good one to watch. I don't think it's one you didn't mind watching it, correct? Like, it wasn't like we've had some of the others where you're like, God, April, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, I feel like it's a good mixture of action and comedy, but not too much of either. You know what I mean? Like, and then like the history period piece type. So it kind of embodies a lot of different genres to where I feel like that's where you're able to pull a different audience from. Though, kind of just like briefly scrolling through Wikipedia, it seemed like the reviews or whatever weren't like amazing. Like people weren't
Mm-mm.
like wowed by it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I am sure it came out just before the holidays in 1983. And so I feel there probably was a few other things that were competing at
That's
that
true.
time.
93 was a big year of movies to where,
Mhm.
yeah, this could have been a hard one to pass.
Yeah. And just like my husband and I were talking recently, there was a movie that came out just after Ant-Man. Most recent, was that Ant-Man or Guardians?
The
No,
Marvel movie?
just after, yeah. So like it back in May, at the beginning of May, was Guardians of the Galaxy, the new Guardians. And the following week, there was another movie that came out called Knights of the Zodiac,
Oh,
which I liked the concept. There's a few like story issues that it kind of was like, and wasn't the best with, but I had to find a theater because most of the theaters around here weren't playing it.
oh wow.
And there was maybe 10 people in the theater when we went on opening night. And Alex was like, like, why? Like, this is a different type movie. I go, think about it. Guardians just came out last week.
Mm-hmm.
People are still going to that.
Oh yeah. People are still going to Little Mermaid because my friend was going tonight and she said it was sold out and they had to go to a different theater. I'm like, oh fuck, it's been like 2 weeks.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
really crazy.
And that's crazy, especially like right now, because going to the theater has been such a,
I don't feel like that many people are doing it.
yeah. I think probably honestly, for Three Musketeers, critics and reviews don't usually care for period pieces like this.
Yeah, they're pretty
I've
harsh
noticed.
judges, I feel like, with them.
And if it's not the big name, huge blockbuster type, it
Yeah,
really doesn't get
I would
much.
say the cast at that time wasn't like a household name.
No,
So, yeah, that makes sense.
they were still very, I don't want to say green, but they weren't where they're at now.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Kiefer Sutherland's definitely a household name.
Charlie Sheen, not in a good way, but
yeah, that's what I was about to say. Oliver Platt, he's had a lot of
he's
different.
done stuff recently besides Beethoven. Like what have I seen him in recently? Because
okay, yeah,
let's see.
So he was in the movie 2012 with John Cusack. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, that was like that. Was it like an apocalyptic type thing?
Yeah,
I
the
saw
Mayan end of the world.
That might be where I'm remembering him from.
Because he was like, he kind of had like if I remember correctly, like a scientist look, like glasses or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, his list goes on and on.
Oh yeah, he did some episodes of The Good Wife. I probably saw him in that most recently, if anything.
But. Yeah, I mean, he was Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams.
But yeah, still, like you said, I mean, they're not huge names backed behind this movie, which I don't know. It's kind of like surprising for like I could expect that for an independent, but for a Disney film, I mean, even though like the list of names that you read out earlier, those sounded way bigger than what these guys were at that time. Like, you know what I mean? So it is kind of interesting, but a lot of them that they probably had originally turned it down. They were like, this is not the role for my career, and these guys were up and coming and maybe just
and better. I think it could have also been budget wise. If you think of it, like they may have wanted those people, but then they couldn't. They might be like, well, we'll do it, but this is what
you better pay me.
Yeah. And then looking at their budget, it was a little better to maybe grab.
Yeah.
Like I said, Charlie Sheen and Kiefer Sutherland had been in Young Guns, which was a
pretty big 80s movie.
Popular movie. Yeah.
Okay. So I happened to just be like looking at the wiki page because when we were talking about Disney and its involvement and stuff, you know, where now my brain goes to when I think Disney and movies is that there's got to be some scandal involved. There's got to be some bullshit now.
Oh yeah,
there was.
Give me.
It said like development, you know, in 92. Another production company also simultaneously began development on an adaptation of Three Musketeers.
I did see that.
So after somebody had been hired to write the screenplay of the different adaptation, Columbia, they accused Disney of stealing concepts which were its intellectual property. So they settled the matter. But like, really? Like, we're doing this again, Disney? What the fuck?
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. Disney. So Columbia Pictures adaptation could have been the one that was made, but Disney won it, and wow. Dang. I'm not surprised, but like, why?
I don't know, like even back then, you're thinking about it, like that you expect that now for sure. I mean, but then again, when you think about it, Disney owns practically 95% of all entertainment anyways. Let's be honest, they've got Lucasfilms, they've got Marvel, they've got all the animated, they've got Pixar, they've got all these different things. They've Fox, they've eating up everything. And so, you can see that being the case now if like some little production company was trying to do something and they'd be like, I like that idea. We want it. We're going to take it.
And you're kind of just like, well, I mean, you got more money, you got more power. I guess you're going to take it. Like, what are you going to do?
Give me some, like, hand some of that money over and I'll maybe let you take it. Right. And that's the thing. Like, I hate the fact that there are a couple of their movies that are like ones that, like this one, that I will never not watch. I will always watch it. A couple of the animated ones. Only like now that I think about it, there's probably only a good handful or so movies that are truly ones that I'm like, oh, it's a Disney movie, but I really, really love this movie.
Yeah, sometimes I think that too about movies. I'm like, when like the whole Disney intro comes on, you're like, oh, I don't know, like I don't like this. Yeah, that's sad to think about because that was like our childhood. Like Disney
Yeah.
all the time. Maybe that's why we are kind of cringy about it now. We're just like, okay, too much Disney.
Well, that, and I mean, I know exactly part of the reason. Disney in the late 2000s was like shoving themselves down throats. Like with
Yeah.
Hannah Montana.
Oh God.
Don't get me wrong, I love Miley Cyrus. I actually really did enjoy some of the Hannah songs too.
I was older than her and I still ended up getting sucked into that world, like for some reason.
When I walked by, I think it was what, Limited 2 or whatever,
Oh
and
my
they had
God.
a freaking Hannah Montana toilet seat.
I
Not a
remember you
toilet seat
telling me about
cover, a
that.
toilet seat.
That is
At that point,
unnecessary.
I was like, I can't, I can't.
Wait, did the toilet seat they're like sing a Hannah Montana song? Like
Oh
that was
God, I hope
honestly
not.
that might have been kind of fun, but as a kid, not as an adult, but
You get the best of both worlds when you take
when
a
you take a
shit.
shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. I kind of want to look that up on eBay now and see if someone's that's terrible.
Honey, I want to use my hand toilet. We ain't using that one. That's teaching you bad words.
Oh my God.
No, like, but that's the thing. Like, yes, Disney was huge in our childhood, but as time has progressed, they have just become, honestly, is it bad that it sounds horrible? I feel like they're kind of turning into a little bit of like almost a Skynet Terminator type thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
they own practically everything.
They're trying to take over. Yeah.
I mean, that's where it's like we now as adults see
Mm-hmm.
through the covers the blinders they tried to put on
Right.
us. Since I think also since like you and I, we do not have kids, so we don't have, or we're not thinking, oh,
And
but
I
it's for
feel
my kids.
bad for those parents because you think about like how much and how often they're watching like Disney type stuff like over and over and over again. Like I'm so glad I don't have to watch all that newer Disney stuff for one, and two, just like having to keep watching it into your adult years. Like it's sometimes nice to go back and watch some of those nostalgic things,
Mhm.
but to think about having if you had a kid and had to watch those all the time, like you're now just
Oh my
becoming
gosh.
what's that word? Like they're like owning you. Like you know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
rewiring your brain towards like Disney,
Yeah.
Disney, Disney, Disney.
Yeah. And that's what I kind of, with these, granted, it's nice that they're the streaming services and everything,
Mm-hmm.
but if you go on it and you look at what's on Disney Plus, number one, like Princess Bride's on there. 10 Things I Hate About You, the movie.
I know that's the thing. If you go back and probably look to see what Disney actually was ever a part of or owns or whatever, like now and then, you would probably be like, wait a second, get your hands out of that pot.
Yeah. I mean, like all of the National Geographic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go through and you don't go into like the Marvel or the
Right.
Star Wars or those groupings, which they try to kind of like steer you
Yeah.
to. Some of it, you're like, now is that just because they thought, or were they truly a part of it
True.
initially? And you're kind of like I said, like 10 Things I Hate About You. I think that was something that was part of, I think that was probably a Fox.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they bought out Fox,
Right. They
they
automatically own rights to it, which, yeah. So again, their involvement wasn't actually when it was made, but still, you're like, now.
like, okay, if there's a 12-year-old kid who's got unfiltered Disney Plus access, watching 10 Things I Hate About You,
Well, they're gonna have fun.
what, that came out in 2000, I think?
I think
99, 2000.
99. I think it was 99.
I watched it when it came out because I love Julia Stiles.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't have been watching it when it came out. I really
Yeah.
shouldn't.
No, not at your age. I mean, I would have only been 11. So even that's still kind of like on the young side of it. But
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
I mean, hell, I shouldn't have been watching this movie when it came. I'm glad I do have it on DVD. I do wish I still had the VHS. We had
Hmm.
purged our VHSs
I
probably
know. I know. That's what I think about too. I'm like,
15,
what?
20 years ago.
Yeah.
But like I said, that was a VHS that once I actually got the damn thing
Got
and
the
it
real
wasn't
one.
blank, it was constantly, constant.
We should definitely post a thing to see if anyone else has ever gotten a blank
A blank
because I'd be very curious.
VHS.
I don't recall in my lifetime ever having that happen, but I'm very curious if anyone else has.
Yeah.
That's like 1 in a million, and you could have
Yeah.
won the lotto.
Obviously, it wasn't, I mean, like it had the stamp. It wasn't like it was just
A
somebody like
black market. Like
yeah, it wasn't that. It had this stamp across it, and because that's what they were trying to be like, oh, you got this, you
right.
guys, so you guys just bought a blank tape and type of
Yeah.
thing.
Trying to get money back.
It has the stamp. Where the fuck are we gonna get that stamp from? It would be interesting to know if anybody else ever had that situation. If they did you have trouble getting another copy? Was it the same situation I did? Like for me, where it was at a time where the productions were so spaced out because it took so long to create
Yeah.
those VHSs.
Yeah. How long did it take? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, I feel like with DVDs, that process was a lot faster, DVDs and Blu-ray,
Mm-hmm.
making them. Whereas I feel like with a VHS, it actually took the length of the movie to for each
Oh, I'm
tape.
sure, if not more. Like, I'm curious as to know the whole process of, and
Yeah.
that's probably why they made such a limited copy because it was time consuming and expensive to
Hmm.
probably mass
Yeah.
produce, and with a movie that maybe didn't do super well in the theaters the first couple of weeks, because maybe they judge it by that. They're like, okay, well, we don't really need to make a ton of copies. Go, no one's watching
Yeah.
it.
Or like it was because I think it was like that the stores were saying that they had received like maybe 10 to 20 copies
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
their shipment, that like holiday shipment in October, November of 94. So they didn't get anything else till the next round again in spring.
Especially when you live in a small town too, your stores are limited. It's not like you have 20 to choose from like we do nowadays.
Yeah.
Like you have like maybe two.
Yeah, we legitimately had Kmart, Walmart. I don't even know if Walmart actually was there at that point.
Mm.
I know where Kmart was.
Kmart was a shit back then.
Yeah.
I love that
And
store.
then we had
Mom, let's go to Little Caesars.
oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my gosh. The Kmart like cafe.
They had so much. That's a whole episode, but like they had so much
Oh
shit
my
there.
gosh.
Like, oh my God. Yeah, we're going to Kmart. Let's go to Kmart. You know what I mean? It was like, hell yeah, we're going to
Yeah.
Kmart.
Yeah. Oh man.
I'd also like to know if anyone else thought that I don't remember his name, but that like redhead character.
Oh my gosh.
If
Yeah, the
any,
one
did anyone else feel like he reminded you of the guy that did that Skittles commercial? That berries and cream and berries and cream. Like,
oh my
does he not remind you
god.
of that shit? Like berries and
Oh
cream and
my
berries.
god.
Like, wait a second, what's happening right now?
Why did you just put that in my mind? Like, holy shit. Yes.
You're welcome.
Good God. Yeah, no. His character was something else. Like
It
it was that
was
kind of like it was that kind of I don't necessarily was like almost kind of like an anti-hero type character where
Mm,
it was just he was also just there for for extra comedic relief.
why does it say though that he played two characters, Gerard and Jusock or whatever it says?
So Gerard was the redhead one. Like
Mhm.
that it
Okay.
the one give my regards to your sis like
Hmm.
D'Artagnan, don't lose your head.
Yeah.
And then Jusek, I think, was probably either in the ship scene, like with Lady De Winter,
Okay.
or maybe he was one of the Musketeers or something at the
Oh,
beginning.
yeah.
But I'm sure it was one of those where we've got this other character that maybe has like one line. Do we really
And they,
fly somebody else out?
yeah.
Or do we have a select cast right now instead of just giving it to some rando? Hey, this person's not in the scene. Make them up.
He looks kind of familiar. I was trying to see if I knew him from
What was it?
something. But
Paul
Paul,
McGann?
he's done some like theater work, but yeah, I don't really see anything that I would have watched him in.
Doctor Who. He did some stuff in Doctor Who. It's saying like he's the voice or something. The Doctor voice. I've never watched Doctor Who, so I don't have any idea on that.
Yeah, I've watched some really random episodes, but not by choice. Yeah, I really don't see him in anything that I know, but like just his picture on Wikipedia, he looks like he could be Doctor Who. It says he became the 8th incarnation of the Doctor
Okay,
in
yeah,
Doctor Who.
I'm getting down to that time frame. He was in Queen of the Damned. Did you ever see that?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I ever actually saw it.
Okay.
Yeah, his character was silly, but I just,
You know what?
it was just like one of the, it's just like one of those things that you're watching something, you're like, why the fuck does that remind me of something? And then,
Yeah, no, you're so right. So completely right. There is a queen.
I mean, it probably is like the same time period too, where
Yeah.
that's like that clothing he was wearing in that commercial. So,
Oh my gosh.
oh,
I did like how that little chase sequence led up to him D'Artagnan meeting Porthos and Aramis because of he was running away from them, all those kinds of things. And like I said, there's just so many good lines in this movie that alone I could be here for hours, just like which ones and everything.
the ones that are embedded in your brain forever.
Oh my gosh. When Tim Curry's getting the bounty hunters, like sending out this like thanks to our winged friends, every bounty hunter mercenary within 1,000 leagues will be watching for them. 1,000 gold pieces on their heads, dead or alive. I prefer dead.
Nowadays they would have taken his character and made a whole like side movie from him. You know what I mean? Like they definitely would have. Like, I'm surprised they didn't even back then, but I could see that happening now.
Oh, that would have been pretty interesting, especially if they stuck with him.
Right. Yeah.
Like I couldn't see anybody else portraying it in the way he did. Like I can't remember if I told you when I was watching just randomly years ago the Belle's Enchanted Christmas. He voices one of the characters in that.
What?
Yeah, Belle's Enchanted Christmas. Because that's like takes place during Christmas when they're still cursed and everything. Right. He voices a organ.
I do think I remember when we did that episode. You mentioned that, but
yeah,
I didn't like really. That's crazy.
It was the same kind of thing from like Beethoven. When watching Beethoven, I'm watching this, and I'm like, and it was the voice. It was just the voice. I'm like, what? Can you come here? Rewind it. Why do I know this voice? Why do I know this voice? Three Musketeers. Cardinal Richelieu. It was.
Oh my gosh.
So many things go back to this movie. Like watch 24 because Kiefer Sutherland.
Because of yeah. I mean that makes sense. I mean, I feel like we all do that, whether consciously or self-consciously. Like we do the things that we do, we watch the things that we do, we listen to the things that we do, and it's usually because of something from our earlier life. So that makes sense. If I would have grown up with this movie, I probably would have watched 24 too, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah. I'm glad you didn't despise it like some of
No.
the
Yeah, no.
others.
You're lucky. You're lucky. Now, if there had been some ninja-ing in there, I would have been like, the three ninjas, we're going back down that road again. But we went with the
No.
Musketeers route.
It was a little bit also a little more
we went from
adult.
the three ninjas to the three Musketeers.
It was also a little more adulty.
It was,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
I wondered. I was like, okay, you said that you guys watched it because I mean we've been friends and talked about a lot of our favorite stuff and movies and everything. I'm like, she probably didn't hate it, but I know she didn't love it. She's I'm just gonna tell her, rip the damn band-aid off, give it to me straight. Give it to me straight. And then shut up and listen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's yeah.
Hey, there's going to be some of those where you do the same thing to me.
So this would be would you say, like, if someone asked you all-time favorite movie of all time, would this be, would you say?
Every time.
Okay.
Every time. There was a little bit junior high school where I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings. And that was for a while. So Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter came out the same time, like beginning wise. I started with Harry Potter, then like fell in love with Lord of the Rings. Of course, stuck with both of them through their time frames of new releases, but it's always come back to Three Musketeers as being my favorite. Like I said, there will be times where something will like take a step above it,
sure,
for a little bit of time, whether it's just a movie that I really enjoyed. I watched a hell of a lot of times. For instance, Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. I saw that movie 9 times in theaters.
Oh my
9
God.
times. By like the 4th time, I could quote the whole damn thing. People hated going with me, but it was also, that was a summer movie. It was, I think, like my senior year of high school. So I had a vehicle. I could drive myself. I didn't have anything else going on. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll fucking go. Oh yeah, I've seen it 5 times already, but I'll fucking see it again. We're going to the matinee, so it's cheaper.
What's the 20th time?
Yeah. So like, I mean, for like that period, yeah, that one jumped in front of Three Musketeers for a little bit. But like I said, it always comes back to Three Musketeers. And I think, let me just double check this here real quick. Let me see.
Well, plus even still, like, even if you love another movie for a short time period or even for the rest of your life, like, it will still never stand the test of time to what the Three Musketeers did. Like, it obviously is imprinted on your life at such a young age and for such, for a certain reason, that regardless, any other movie after this will just be its own thing.
Yeah. So I just was curious on this. There was the Three Musketeers there was a 1973 version, I think is what you were thinking of.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if I ever saw it. It may have been on the TV, but I don't know.
Well, shit. If I'm just skimming this as freaking wiki, and I hate wiki. But it looks like Christopher Lee was in it.
In the original?
Yeah, like holy shit. Christopher Lee and Faye Dunaway. Damn. I may have to know
who Christopher Lee is. 1973, a live action one. Oh, they made an animated one and a live action. Whoa, I gotta go back for a second. Hanna-Barbera. Yeah. Okay, I see how it is. Hanna-Barbera owned the animation world. Disney owned like everything else.
Christopher Lee, did you watch Star Wars, the episode 2, Attack of the Clones?
I see his name in the cast list. Who are you talking? Oh, Christopher Lee. Oh, never mind. I see him. Oh, he's too old in that picture to know if I've seen him in something.
Did you watch Star Wars stuff?
Yeah, only recently, but I didn't grow up with it.
Okay, either way. Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
The second one, the one with like Hayden Christensen. The first one that he was in, Christopher Lee was Count Dooku. He was the Sith, the main antagonist in that one. you would recognize him like if you saw him on the
If he
screen.
wasn't, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because I don't know who you're talking about in that Star Wars movie. What year did that come out?
That Star Wars was 2000 something.
Oh, here it is. Clone Wars? No, that's not
No,
way.
that's animated.
Oh, Revenge of the Sith. Count Dooku.
Yeah, so he was in Revenge of the Sith for just a few minutes, and then he was also in the Attack of the Clones. Did you watch the Willy Wonka,
Hmm.
the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, not
Mm-hmm.
Willy Wonka, Charlie. So
Yeah.
he was Dr. Wonka. He had a little,
Oh. I haven't seen that movie since it came out, though, probably.
yeah.
Hmm.
He was Lord of the Rings, which is where like I attached onto him.
Hmm.
I mean, his credits was almost 300 titles before he
That's
passed.
he passed. Oh man, that's a
Oh
lot.
yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
he passed at 93.
Oh, look, he
He
was in Return from Wish Mountain.
yes, he was the 19 whatever
That's
70s.
70s one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
he was the bad guy in that. Yeah.
Hmm.
He passed in 2015 at 93. He would have been
Oh
101 years old.
wow. He lived a long life then. That's
He did.
crazy.
He
Hmm.
really did. That is our tale into Three Musketeers.
Woo!
You got it over with.
We did it. I've
We
heard
did
about
it.
this from day one of podcasting and we got through
How many
it.
episodes in? Like 40 or something?
I don't even know, but hey,
We finally got to it.
we did. 93 is a good year. So,
93 is good. We've got a lot of good ones coming.
and we know how we should end it. One for all and all
And
for one.
all for one.